Hello and welcome to another episode of the Magic Arena Run. We're going to be taking a look at the Post-Mortem of the Dimir Manipulation deck. Now we didn't do quite well. Actually, we could say we did quite poorly. And one way to analyze it is to look at all the answers that we've been given. So basically, we do have issues in terms of in terms of flexibility. Like, let's take a look at some of the removal spells we have. We have Final Reward, 5 mana, very good at exiling a creature, but that's all it does. Reaver Ambush is a cheaper version, but has some limitations as well. So basically, the issue we have is generally in terms of limitations. Our removal spells are somewhat fine, but our counter spells are even more limited. We would rather have cards like Supreme Will, where we have the option where it is very flexible. If we can't use it as a counter spell, we can use it as a card search. Censor is actually better in this case, although it is very weak as a counter spell, so we probably want to look for stronger options. So that means we'll be dropping out cards like we'll be dropping cards like Hornswoggle. We'll be dropping. Negate is kind of fine in this sense, but we want to limit our Essence Scatters and Hornswoggles in this case, because one thing to note is that with the black component, we are able to answer creatures pretty well. So we want to take advantage of the black to answer creatures, blue to answer non-creatures, or to be more flexible in its answers. So we also have an issue in terms of the finishers we have. Okay, we have a few basic cards like Air Elemental, just a 4/4 flyer for 5. We would much rather have Glyph Keeper, or Soul of the Rapids could also upgrade to a Glyph Keeper in this case. Angler Drake, interesting return ability, but it is quite expensive. So we probably should be focusing on quality over quantity in this event. So with that in mind, let's take a look at let's go over the deck. First, let's take a look at our finishers. So we're definitely dropping Air Elemental and Angler Drake. We'll also be dropping Soul of the Rapids. We'll keep a single copy of Tetsimok and Nezahal for now. I'm pretty sure an argument can be made to increase the numbers there. We'll start by bumping up the Ravenous Chupacabras, because we want to have threats that can also answer. Glyph Keepers will bump that up by 1. Also, Champion of Wits will bump that up to add as an answer of sorts. So we'll drop Labyrinth Guardian. In fact, if we notice, we don't have that many creatures to begin with. So even with the stuff I remove, we still down to about 9 creatures. I think 26 lands may be a bit too much for this deck. I normally prefer 24, but for control deck, I can see an argument for 25. So in that case, let's bump up the Champion of Wits, because it's a cheaper creature, something we're okay with them discarding early also. I can see an argument for bumping up the number of Chupacabras. Now to our removal package, let's first drop Impale, Hornswoggle. We'll leave Golden Demise here for now, but we'll drop those 2. We'll also drop Reaver Ambush and Vanquish the Weak. Also Walk the Plank. So we'll drop those. So I'll drop. So for our more expensive one, we want Vraska's removal. Vraska's Contempt. Yeah, basically it's her form of removal. The nice thing about it is that it's a very good answer to creatures and planeswalkers, especially if you run into the decks which are more heavily invested in. We tend to see a lot of Karns, Teferis. Being able to answer them is quite fine. An alternative to Vraska's Contempt, admittedly it is a high cost, is Never to Return. This one is nice in that it gives us it destroys a creature or a planeswalker, and gives us a way to get a creature token back. Also a good way to, well, not exactly a good answer to stuff like like Scarab God, but if ever we're able to counter one of those, we can at least aftermath to make sure it's gone for good. So I'm putting in 2 Vraska's Contempt because that's our more expensive one. Gonna put 2 copies of Never to Return. Then we're going to drop the Moment of Craving. Doomfall is kind of flexible, so I might leave that there. I'm gonna drop the Moment of Craving and actually no, let's drop the Moment of Craving. Let's drop the Doomfall. First, let's replace the Moment of Craving with Cast Down. This one pretty much answers creatures as long as they're not legendary, and we do have other ways to answer legendary creatures. Then we have a singleton unsummon. We're gonna replace that with Blink of an Eye, because sure, it's nice that it's nice that they're cheap. They can answer creatures, but we want to be able to answer non-creature permanents as well. So we're gonna put in about 2 or 3 of those. I guess we'll put 3 in for now. So with that in mind, we're dropping Overflowing Insight. We got good use out of it once. That's pretty much it. So okay. Oh yeah, we'll drop the Final Reward. That's an expensive one. So we're dropping the Essence Scatters in favor of probably 2 more copies of Supreme Will and an additional copy of an Opt. We're actually bump up the negates by 1. I can see an argument for bumping up Cancel as well. There are interesting options, like in terms of count. Okay, there's this one card called Countervailing Winds. This one is more of a late game counter, but at least you can cycle it. It is a decent replacement for Censor, because Censor, we can hit some threats early with Censor, but I think we're better off leaving those threats and just using our black spells to answer that. Sure, the cycling is more expensive, but over time, especially as we cast more spells over time, we are gonna be able to take more advantage of it. Another possible counter spell I can think of. Let's see. We're actually gonna run into a lot of spells that don't exactly fit. So I'm really looking at Countervailing Winds. As soon as we get Kaladesh and Aether Revolt, this allow is gonna definitely replace Cancel. Likewise, the same can be said for Disappearing Act is possible. Actually, no, Disappearing Act is not so great here. There is Lookout's Dispersal. We don't exactly have Pirates, so it will flatly cost 3. But if you think of it, it is very similar to Countervailing Winds, except that it is much more useful early. In an earlier state. So we're not playing blue-red, so if we could it's basically reduce in a sense. We're not playing Spell Swindle. We could play Syncopate. Actually, Syncopate is very flexible. It is a better fit. It won't cycle like Censor does, but let's say we drop the Censor, let's say we drop the Censor, we drop the Negates. We keep the Supreme Wills because it's very flexible. We keep the Syncopates in that sense. We keep the 2 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination because that's our card draw. In fact, we'll drop the Secrets of the Golden City in favor of... I really want to have an extra creature. Or, another thing we can do is just add another Treasure Map. Treasure Map actually acts as a land drop of sorts, so we can actually cut down on our lands. 26 is too much, but I think 25 should be okay. So first things first, we're gonna run that deck analysis, see how it goes. Let's see how our mana distribution works. Another trick we can do is so we can cut down our swamps in favor of islands. We're more blue heavy. Another thing we can actually consider is the use of sagas. The black saga is actually quite good as our board wipe in a sense. Wait, let's fix. Contain at least one enough. Let's see actual sagas. We're gonna see Chainer's Torment's not a great one. We actually run the risk of losing to of it killing us, though. It is a risk of sorts. So, Phyrexian Scriptures is a good one. We could run into opponents that have that run artifact creatures. We're especially gonna see more of these once the Kaladesh Aether Revolt set comes out. So, but still, Phyrexian Scriptures, it's a little bit delayed, but it is a way to buy. It is a way to buy time. So we could use this as a mass removal of sorts instead of Golden Demise. So just one copy of that. Let's see. There's also not Antiquity Swear that relies. Eldest Reborn is also another way to act as removal, although this is a bit more expensive. We do get something back, and it could just be from our own side, so it's okay. Mirari Conjecture is a way to rebuy our instance. Not much in sorceries. I guess having a single copy of Phyrexian Scriptures is okay. Speaking of blue-black, definitely want to have a copy of the Scarab God at least. This is gonna be the pricier one, so it's best to figure out how many you can afford. Also, we're not running that many creatures, so but it is a good way to take advantage of our opponent's creatures. So our removal does double duty. I guess in that case we can cut down one Supreme Will. So our lands are 26, so I'm gonna cut down one swamp. Let's see our other lands. We have swamp. Okay, definitely wanna put in some long-term card advantage. No reason not to run Arch of Orazca. Let's drop the filters. Search for Azcanta is also a very good way to gain card advantage early. So we'll probably add search there also. It's quite expensive. It's a bit pricey, but works pretty well. So let's just leave that in there for now. So probably drop another. We'll probably drop an island. We'll replace the 4 copies of Submerged Boneyard with Drowned Catacomb. Right now I'm just keeping it to the probably the most useful in general dual land. If you can afford the rare slots, there are other dual lands you can add onto it. So pretty sure we could still cut down on one more land. We do have a copy of Field of Ruin. We do have Evolving Wilds. We have earlier plays, so I think 2 Evolving Wilds is just right. Let's cut down another swamp. Let's see what we can add to that. 4th copy of Opt. Another copy of Ravenous Chupacabra is great, especially if you can rebuy it. Having a singleton copy of Search. Yeah, 2 copies of Treasure Map. We will have a lot of card draw. We will have card draw over time, and a good amount of card selection. So let's see. I'm trying to think if there are any pretty decent creatures we can add. Any finishers I'm missing. Cliff Keeper's quite okay. I guess we can put in another copy of Ravenous Chupacabra. We can actually cut down our removal a bit. Never to return is we can. It's an argument to cut down the never to return since we have Vraska's Contempt. We can reduce never to return by 1 and add in. I think our counter spell package is a. I'm gonna put in this third Supreme Will back. Let's see how it looks like from there. Note that things are gonna change a bit when things will change once we get Kaladesh Aether Revolt, but I guess for now we'll work with the limitations that we have and work it out from there. So okay, so we have a 2, 3, 4 curve. We have a bunch of 1s. Actually, we don't really have a bunch of 1s. Only half of them are real ones. The syncopates are more of at least 2 at the very least. So bunch of 6, 7, bunch of 5s. What is our 6 casting cost creature? Oh yeah, Tetsimok. Tetsimok's actually one of the weaker ones. I guess you can. There's an argument for dropping it. I'm actually curious. Let's see. Okay, Urguros 4/3 Legendary Spectre. If it hits, if it is a way to refill or knock out cards from our opponent's hand, and it's also evasive, I guess. But no, being able to have a lot of removal works well too. Okay, we're quite instant heavy. Oh yeah, there is one other threat we can add. This one's a bit more optional, but it is one way to help in our filtering. So in fact it will reduce pressure on having treasure maps, although treasure maps are pretty great. So let's try 2 copies of Riddle Form. We got 11 creatures, so I can 20 instances is still quite a lot. So I guess we are cutting down the Supreme Will by 1. Alternately, an argument can be made for just dropping cancel altogether in favor of okay, let's drop cancel altogether. Let's add the 4th Supreme Will. Then we can also drop I guess 1 copy of Syncopate. It's I guess. So Riddle Form can also act as a creature threat, and we have plenty of instants. That's one thing to consider. In fact, we have plenty of non-creature spells. We could easily be a prowess type deck, but this is acting from a high control perspective. So I guess this is our take on the Dimir Manipulation deck. So in real life, it is quite pricey. The mana base is okay. It is slanting slightly heavier on black, but that is because we do have a lot of double black spells in our cost. The blue we can easily get away with a single blue, except for the later parts. So we are actually playing 24 lands. So but if we're able to flip Search, that is a land. If we're able to flip our Treasure Map, that's also a land. If we're not feeling that comfortable with that, I would suggest dropping a Supreme Will in favor of another land. That is one way to go around it. Anyway, this is yeah, actually I'm not feeling that comfortable. Let's drop we'll drop Supreme Will in exchange for another island for now. So that's our take on the Dimir Manipulation deck. That's the Post-Mortem for it. If you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yes, I know this is a pricey way to work on it. One way to look at this is that it gives us a general direction. We don't have to completely go all in on this direction. Basically, as we open packs, as we open newer cards, as we basically start working toward it slowly. I guess the easiest one to replace, start working on the commons first, start working on the cards that are more consistent, and then we can work towards the rare slowly. I guess the finishers are the ones that we can work on the last, especially if you don't have any spare wild cards waiting around. There, it's not about having the flashiest creature. Sometimes it's just having a big efficient creature is enough in its own sense. So anyway, that's it for Dimir Manipulation. If you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again next time when we explore the next deck. I think it's Golgari Exploration deck, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.